and Martin throws it down. Oh, my Lord.
The Detroit Pistons select Luke Kennard from Duke University.
Bang! Samaje Christian, 3.
All right, everybody. Another episode of the Triple Double Podcast. I'm Corey Albertson from Triple Double Prospects. Also got Jason Morrow, 270 Hoops in the building as the producer. And we've got a great guest today. Just a kid from Columbus, Ty Kish. Originally of, I will always know him as City League Hoops TV. Ty, my brother, what's going on?
Not much, man. I appreciate that intro. I wear that hoodie everywhere. Just a kid from Columbus, so it's fitting.
Hey, man, it's humble beginnings. That's what it's all about, man. When I tell people listening that you're one of my oldest friends in basketball, I really, truly mean you're one of my oldest friends in basketball, man. And, for the longest time, I used to give you shit because you would never take credit. I used to always say that a huge part of my website blowing up when I had Cincy Prep Hoops Report back in the day was Ty Kish, and you would never take credit, and that's just the type of guy you are. Was when you came down, I did my first ever showcase. We had Aaron Thomas, who played at Florida State, versus Samaje Christian, who played at Xavier, then went on to play for Oklahoma City Thunder, now in China. And that video, and that just propelled my website so far in terms of views and everything. So, I appreciate that and everything. And, you've got City League Hoops TV. You've done stuff on the middle school side. And you've really just been a video pioneer, man. So just tell us about how you got started. You're a kid from Columbus. You started on a local platform, moved on to a state platform. What was City League Hoops TV about?
City League Hoops kind of started in 2000, the 2000 and 2001 season. I decided not to play basketball my senior year, and I just wanted to go around and watch all the talent in the city. So I went, me and my brother and my friend Jeff, we just took video cameras to games and filmed. At that time, Brookhaven was really good. East High School was really good. Independence had a nice team. And we just tried to get to as many of the games as we could. We recorded everything, and then I actually decided to edit to music, kind of inspired by the And One mixtape that came out. It was a VHS. And One had all the New York City Playground legends playing, and I don't know, I just wanted to kind of do something similar for Columbus. So I just started editing those to music. I was using the most crazy, weird, rigged up system ever. I had two VHS decks, plug from a cassette player playing the music, and just, I don't even know how it worked, but just put together some highlights of the season and then gave them to a couple friends. And I didn't know this, but they kind of got dubbed and passed around the city. And it just, every year I'd make a year-end video. And it wouldn't come out till about the summertime because it took me so long to edit it. And it just got passed around. And, people didn't know who was making it. And I didn't know it was getting passed around. So it's kind of funny to look back and see the evolution of that.
Yeah, I didn't even know that story. And, that's crazy. And, for people who don't know, if you're in video, if you're not in video, if you're watch basketball, you're probably on YouTube nowadays looking at highlights. And this is when that style of filming from the baseline or filming from court level, really zoomed in type of camera, that style really started being iconic. And the Ball is Life, the Hoop mixtape guys. And I just remember when I got into it being like, oh my God, there's a guy in Columbus, 100 miles from where I'm from, doing this on a local level, showcasing our kids from where we're from. And this is so awesome. And just seeing that logo, that City League Hoops TV, that TV come crashing down onto the screen to start the video was so exciting. And I know Zach and Jason, Zach's not here, but Jason's here, being from Columbus. I can't even imagine how much those guys enjoyed watching that stuff back then.
Yeah, it was.
Sorry.
No,
go ahead.
I was going to say, I did that for a while. I did that for a long time, just on a local level. And then 2009, 2010 seasons, YouTube started to be a little bit more user-friendly. So I started to post some things on YouTube. I got a new computer, and I started to just kind of see what it would be like to kind of get the kids' names out there on YouTube. So I uploaded Jared Sullinger, J.D. Weatherspoon, Jerry Dixon from East High School, some of their highlights. And that's how things kind of really got started as far as moving more to a statewide and national level. Nils from Hoop Mixtape reached out to me when he saw some of the videos and just kind of asked what I was doing. And he really was responsible for kind of showing me the ropes on the national level. So I'm always eternally grateful to him for just extending his wisdom and knowledge to me and helping me kind of figure out how to do things. So that's kind of how it went from the city to the state to the national level.
Right. That makes sense. And what people don't know first and foremost about video guys, whether, if you're a scout in this game, if you're a college coach, if you're a fan, you don't know that video guys have to work their asses off. And it's not just that you go watch the game, but while you're watching the game, you got to film the game. Then after you're done filming the game, you got to go back and edit the video. And I mean, it's tireless work. And I know there's competition for hits, especially with today's technology age. You take a kid like Lonzo Ball's little brother, and everybody wants to make a video of him. And I know you're not really into that type of stuff anymore. You've kind of grown past that, but you guys have certainly had to work. But the one thing that I really respect that you've done is just take things to the next level, and you've been kind of a pioneer. And you and I have talked over the years about, when we started off as doing this niche in basketball, and then we decided we wanted to try and make some money at it while still doing it, but we got to evolve with the game. And you did that, by starting off doing high school, college players, guys are going to be pros on the AU level, and then you kind of moved on to the middle school level. And I know a lot of that was just working with different guys, trying to find the next kid. And how did that all come about?
Well, so Nils showed me the ropes. The first real AAU event that I went to on the national level was Boo Williams, which was actually the first year of the EYBL. So 2010, the first EYBL, he said, hey, come down to Virginia and just kind of see what the national schedule's like. So I went down there. It was insane, everything about it. I hit a possum on the way down there. No, a raccoon, rather. I hit a raccoon. It tore the front of my bumper off my car. I had to drive under 60 miles an hour for like the last 3 hours just to get to the gym without my front bumper coming off. Slept in the parking lot. Woke up Saturday morning and filmed it. I think the first game was at 9 a.m. and it was 15U at that time. They had 15U, 16U, 17U. I filmed 15U all Ohio in the morning, and the night ended at midnight. A game got delayed, so this court ran later. So that was before they put in the rules on how many games could be played in a day and all these things. So it was a wild day, and needless to say, I fell in love with AAU that second. I got to see so many good players, and that was actually, I didn't know who to film. Nils told me. Travis from Yay Area's Finest helped me out, told me who to film, and it was a wild situation. So over the years, I kind of learned who to film, what to film, and Roger Bone, who works for Slam Magazine, I met him early on too, and me and him kind of worked together on who to film, what the strategy was, and kind of maybe a couple years in, I just kind of realized, like, there's no reason to film the same guys as Ball of Life, Hoop Mixtape, Yay Area's Finest. Like, I need to focus on something else. So I always kind of focused on young, up-and-coming players because some of those guys, they wanted to film people who are already well above the rim, the most exciting guys, basically, because they're older and more athletic. So I filmed Julius Randle pretty early. Andrew Wiggins pretty early, and kind of found some success filming the younger players, just not trying to do the exact same footage as everyone else, because there would be no way to compete with them if I just did the same videos as them. So that kind of started me off on the path of filming younger guys.
Well, let me stop you for 1 second real quick and just say that's interesting, because what you just said is very, very similar to the conversations we've had with scout and service guys. And when we've talked to scout and service guys, we've talked about there's no point in sitting there with all the top national blue blood coaches and, somebody like an Evan Daniels who is watching the McDonald's All-American level kids. You got to be in the other gym finding talent for your colleges that subscribe to your service. And that's kind of exactly what you're doing with trying to be the first one to find a kid, be the first one to have that video. And I remember when I was working with Rivals, there would be so many times where a kid would come on the radar at a school early on and like, well, Ty has the only one that has the video on him. And you kind of have really become a person who can help these national scouting guys on these are the young kids. But one other one I wanted to jump on real quick was you talked about Boo Williams. I just wanted to share my Boo Williams story. Is that's an event that's been a training ground for so many guys like yourself and myself. And my first time going to Boo Williams, I took advice from a guy named Chad Brendel who works for 24/7 Sports. And he told me, he said, well, why leave at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning to try and get there right for the first game when it starts Friday night at 6 o'clock. Leave at midnight or 10 p.m. the night before, drive through the night, get there, check in early to your hotel, and sleep. And I remember I worked all day, left my house at like 11:30 p.m., and 5 o'clock a.m. is the only time I've ever fallen asleep driving. And I stopped and took two Red Bulls straight to the head as fast as I could, drove another half an hour, and just passed out somewhere off an exit in Virginia with my car on the side of the highway. That's the first time I ever went to Boo Williams. So, it's funny, the sacrifices we made back then. That's really funny. But no, I'm sorry. So you were saying that, right, you got the kind of the revelation that everybody's filming the same kids. That's going to screw up our views. It's going to kind of just cut the market into sectors. So you wanted to be the one who was filming the kids that nobody knew about yet. Yeah,
and another Boo Williams, that same Boo Williams, I don't remember who I was supposed to stay with, have a hotel with that night, because there was no money involved. I was spending my own money to get down there. I wasn't making anything. It was just, I just wanted to be a part of it. So I forgot who it was that I was supposed to stay with, but I ended up seeing Benji Burke, and he let me stay on their hotel room floor that night, that Saturday night. So, yeah, that was Boo Williams definitely was a testing ground, I could say, for both of us. Yeah. But on the younger guys, yeah, and then Roger, like I said, Roger Vaughn was integral to the success of everything that I did too, because he was helping me identify guys. He was, he's reading every article that comes out, and we just kind of put an emphasis on filming. We still film the big names, but also just trying to see who was out there who wasn't known yet, and who we could kind of put on the big stage early. So it was kind of cool especially now, to look back at that footage. And then Roger was good friends with Brian Merritt, who helped out with the Don Lucas camp. So he said, hey, how about you go try to find some of these middle school guys and just get to know them even before they get to the high school level. And they were bringing in all the studs to Texas for John Lucas back at that time. So I went to some of the Lucas camps and saw a lot of young talent out there. Clay Dades, Sad Frost, and Super Soft camps. Both had a lot of great guys. I put out a video recently of Jason Tatum in 8th grade at Clay Dades camp. So just going to some of those younger things and seeing the guys early, and then kind of being able to follow them through high school, it was a really cool thing to be able to try to figure out who was good at that age and see how the talent swings and a lot of the best guys at that age don't end up being the best guys by the time they're junior, senior in high school. So that was
there's so many of those guys. There's so many of those guys now that, it's funny. I'm seeing events now with an AU or a high school game. Well, that's a YouTube kid. That's a YouTube sensation from, when he was in middle school. And, that's one of the things I wanted you to really touch on is, being a guy who films middle school kids, you've certainly approached it the right way. You're not out here telling people that the kid that you filmed is the next LeBron or Michael Jordan, but you're just filming the kid and showing, what he can kind of do and making it a fun thing and, an exposure opportunity. But there's a lot of stories of failure for each success story. And, how do you really balance that when now that you're in the camp business and, you have to really maintain relationships?
I think the key to that and kind of the way that I have looked at it over the years is a lot of people really focus on rankings, and they kind of let that really get out of hand. And I think a lot of times the way I want to approach it is just, let's do all positive exposure. Let's not try to rank someone. Let's not say this kid's the 25th best player in the country. Let's just say, here's a video of him doing the things he does best. And I think when people get caught up in these rankings and they get caught up in, I have to be the best player from this area, it's not the right approach. I think the YouTube videos, now Instagram is huge for exposure, but kids that get seen early, I think it's great because it gives them more opportunities. But what I tell middle school parents, don't worry about the rankings. Don't worry about where you are in the popularity scale. If you can have a name that a high school scout will recognize, that's really all you need. You don't, sometimes being ranked the number one player puts expectations on you that gives you a false, it's almost like you get a evaluation from a scout that's harsher than it would be if you're ranked 10th. So
right. And I mean, you have so many parents to tell you, well, my kid is the top 10 in the country as a sixth grader. And, my response to that is nobody gives a shit. Now, they care that he's going to have a chance to be one of the top ranked kids when he's in the 11th or 12th grade. That's what they care about. What he's ranked now is irrelevant, but I completely understand what you're saying. And, when you were doing, I asked a question from a middle school perspective, but it translates because, we've all seen it with high school guys. There's plenty of McDonald's All-American kids that, end up not making it for a variety of reasons. And ultimately what the technology age in basketball, social media, what it does to a kid who is that talented is it puts an X on your back. And that X comes with a lot of great opportunities, a lot of chance to travel the country, to see different things, to meet different people. But it also comes with a lot of pressure that you're going to be talked about. You're going to be criticized for every shot you miss, and every single kid's going to try and really give you their A game. And some kids are able to take that on and continue to grow with it, like a Jason Tatum. And then there's another kid who, unfortunately that pressure is just too much for him.
Yeah, that's a tough set of circumstances for anyone to handle at such a young age. I think the majority of kids handle it really, really well. Another thing that I always say is I don't meet many kids that are bad kids or people that you just look at and say, like, man, I'm really turned off by this kid. It's a lot of the parents and adults in the game that make things crazy. So I think sometimes people need to take a step back and realize that these kids are, when I'm covering the kids, they're, 11 to 14. Even when they get older, they're still 17, 18 years old. So sometimes I think they're so good at basketball that we forget they're still kids,
Especially you talked about a Julius Randle, and I remember Julius Randle from watching him play against one of my all-time favorites, Devin Williams, played at West Virginia, is now in Australia, and they played against each other. They were in the 8th grade when I first started doing this, and Devin and Julius were both 14 years old. They just happen to look like they're 20. So I mean, that's exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, both of those guys were physically developed very early, and sometimes people would look at those kids and say, hey, these guys are already so physical. I don't think they have a high ceiling, but both of them proved that wrong. So it's a hard thing to get into the evaluation so young, and I think there's a big difference between video guys and scouts that sometimes people don't realize. Well,
let me segue real quick. Oh, absolutely. And let me segue real quick on Devin Williams. Why Devin Williams is good is not an accident. I remember I was at UC still going to school. Had just finished being a student manager there, and Devin used to text me at night, and we would go and sneak into one of the practice gyms at Xavier and work out from like 10 p.m. to 11 p.m. every night. And then after school, when he got dropped off at his house, he would ride his bike uphill mile and a half to Cincinnati State and sneak in their weight room and then sneak in their gym and shoot. And, I tell kids nowadays, I'm like, Devin Williams is 6'8", 240, 0% body fat, natural. And he's working that hard, and you're 5'10", who's going to be the better player? So, I mean, and I'm sure Julius Randle has a similar story, but, right, going back into what you wanted to say, which is, scouts and video are very different. And, your guys' platform should be one, you would think, in an ideal world where there wouldn't be a whole lot of confrontation with outside sources because you're making a highlight tape. And in making a highlight tape, you're showing a kid's strength. So obviously the kids are always going to love you guys. I mean, the competition from the parents is probably going to be feature my kid on your first video versus your second video, right?
Yeah, from parents. I mean, there's all kinds of things that the parents do that are kind of crazy, but I just think the biggest thing, what I was saying with that was, there's people who can watch a game. I can film a game. I can stand right next to Roger Bond. I can film a basketball game, and I can tell you, what during the game I'm thinking about what clips I'm going to use in a mixtape. I'm thinking about, how does this kid look on video? Roger's comparing him to other kids he's seen at the same age, thinking about what school would he fit into, what conference could he be successful in, what's his long-term potential. And I think sometimes people kind of get that a little bit confused. In my mind, I make videos to try to make kids look as good as possible. I want the kids to get noticed by coaches who will hopefully come watch them in the future. Hopefully they get invited to better camps. I mean, there's been a ton of kids that I've done videos on that have got to play on better AAU teams as a result. And I think really it's just the exposure. That's what we do. We have a big platform, like you said, and we can get kids exposure. And of course, every parent wants their kids to get the best opportunities, So
I can't even imagine the landscape in 2018 where if you were to drop a video of a top 7th or 8th grader, how many AAU programs from that kid's state are going to hit you talking about how do I get this kid?
Yeah, well, they don't really come to me. I think they just contact the kids directly now because Instagram is so, Instagram makes people so accessible. I think their DMs probably fill up really quick, but people don't really ask me too much.
Right. Well, absolutely. And that gets to what I wanted to ask you about. And, every once in a while, if I'm eating lunch during my day job, let's hop on YouTube. Let's see, what videos are coming out. Or if I see a recruiting story about a kid that I haven't seen that commits to a big school, I might type his name in YouTube and, watch the video from a reputable source. But now I'm seeing these videos, man, they're 10 minutes long. They're the kid showing off his damn sneaker collection. They're the kid playing open gym where he's playing against people who suck. And I'm talking about mainly the balls. And I mean, that's a reality show. I get it. But, I think it's gotten away from, like, I used to be able to watch a City League Hoops TV video about a kid and in 60 seconds to 120 seconds, I'm going to see, here's what the kid's really good at. It's really fun. It's a quick highlight video. And now it's like, man, it's like making the kid a celebrity. And that when we get to that point, I think that's making life more difficult for college basketball coaches in terms of recruiting and then in terms of trying to win games with that kid once he gets to campus?
Yeah, so the reason for that is the change. YouTube changed its algorithm. So when I first started, and this basically goes until about 2014. So from 2010 to 2014, the YouTube algorithm favored videos. It was about the amount of views the video got, the amount of comments that it got, and the amount of likes versus dislikes that it got. So basically, the community on YouTube figured out which videos they liked, and those would come up first in the search. Now, the YouTube algorithm favors watch time. So it's how long the videos are, how long the videos are actually watched for. So people will make an 8-minute video of just raw highlights or showing a lot of things that don't really pertain to what the video's about, honestly, to try to trick the YouTube algorithm into making their videos appear higher. So I still enjoy making.
I never knew that, and I remember last summer they hyped the shit out of a game. It was Zion Williamson, I think, and I can't remember now. I'm pretty sure it was against Romeo Langford, or was Zion Williamson against somebody? No, it was against the ball kid.
Yeah,
it was Zion Williamson against the ball kid, and they hyped the shit out of the game. And then I don't know if the game was streaming somewhere. I didn't watch it. The next day, I decided, well, hey, I'm going to go watch the YouTube highlights. I'm sure there was some craziness involved. And I couldn't find a YouTube video recapping the game in less than 12 minutes. And I clicked on a couple of them, and it's showing the crowd for 2 minutes, and it's showing all this other stuff. I'm like, I just want to see Zion Williamson get 2 cool dunks and Ball hit a nice step-back shot and go about my day. And I've seen the word raw highlights in a lot of those search things, I remember. So that I never knew that. That's interesting.
Yeah, the other thing is if a video is over 10 minutes long, you can put 2 ads in it as opposed to 1. So.
Oh, sure.
So there's that's another
thing. Get that money.
Yeah. So to me, I didn't really get into it to just document the games. I enjoy editing. I enjoy putting good clips to music. So I'm still making shorter videos. I make some longer videos here and there, but the shorter videos are still more fun to create for me. And I'm gonna probably mix it up a little bit with some of the longer videos just to stay relevant. But yeah, that's the reason that there's so many long highlights now. And, you can make a documentary about a kid and make it 25 minutes long, and that's really going to boost you in the algorithm. So that's the reason for the longer videos that are out there. So it's not a great thing, but
right.
It's the reality at this
point.
Right,
Ty. And you know that, with YouTube, we could talk about YouTube all day and how things have changed. But for you in the last, since Zach and I started watching your City League Hoops videos, from like 2009 on, what has changed for you in the video game in terms of meeting other people? I know you talked about some of the people you met at Boo Williams and stuff, but what are some things that you've seen change, just about how people go about making videos, and that kind of stuff over the last couple of years?
I mean, just making the longer videos is something everything does. I think also, Ball's Life is the leader now. As far as the videos on YouTube, Nils from Hoop Mixtape, he kind of has done some other things and it doesn't do YouTube as much. So Ball's Life kind of took over as the number one source. And I just see a lot of people kind of doing what they're doing. Like there used to just be every video would just be a picture of a kid. And now it's a crazy title and there's writing all over the thumbnail. Things have switched up a lot, but I think it's still. I think the video game is still mostly positive. It has switched to kind of we're going to film the kids with the biggest reputation over everyone else, and I think there used to be a lot of more love spread around, and now it's like we're going to show about 10 kids a lot of love, and then if anyone else does anything in between, they might get featured. So that's kind of unfortunate.
You got Jason Morrow to ask a question, which I think this is the 10th episode we've recorded, and that's only happened one other time. And when TJ Kelly came on the show, he gave Jason relentless shit at the end for not asking any questions. So, I'm always bragging on you. Now I got another thing to brag on about Ty Kish. But I want to kind of switch gears to our last main topic, and our last main topic is, as far as I know, you started this, and I'm going to continue to give you credit for it. But you're such a humble guy, you're probably going to give Roger all the credit. But when you were filming high-level kids, high school, college, AAU, whatever, you started turning out videos, and now I see it everywhere, especially right now because it's June. NBA draft workouts. Talk about how that got started and really what you're doing and all the places that's taken you.
Yeah, that was definitely Roger. So that's not humble. That's the truth. Roger told me, we already had filmed a couple workouts with guys that were pretty successful, like high school guys. And then Roger was like, Roger started with NBA Draft Express. So he was already in the draft game. And that might not be the very start of things, but that was one of the first things he did. So he said, we have a chance to film a draft workout with Ennis Cantor in Chicago, and there's a couple other guys up there, and was I interested in going? So I said, give it a shot. And the videos, that first year was really successful. People really like to see it, and it's a world you just can't walk into these gyms, and that's where Roger comes in. You have to have a relationship with the agent or the trainer to get in there. And Roger knows these people for years, and they trust him. They trust his evaluations, and they trust that me coming with him, I'm not going to show anything that shouldn't be shown. It's a really delicate situation with these guys preparing to make millions of dollars, and the videos can really impact that. So Roger basically started that, and it just built every year. It just built up every year. Like, we could get into bigger and better workouts because we had the stuff from the past years to show people. And just kind of Roger built those relationships up. People trusted that the videos would be quality. I film workouts a certain way, depending on who the player is. Try to accentuate what they do well. If a guy's a really powerful player who dunks really hard, I'm going to zoom in a little bit more to make the dunk look even more powerful. If a guy is a great shooter, I'm going to make sure you can see where his feet are when he takes the shot, so he's shooting an NBA 3. So you just want to kind of accentuate the people's talents as much as possible. But, yeah, that was Roger Bond, and, we've been everywhere for draft workouts.
But that's the draft workouts are so interesting because I think it hits so many demographics. So if you're a fan of a team, you get to say, like, hey, I can Google this dude, and now I can see his little video of, stuff that no one's seen him do. Maybe it's a big and he's out there shooting jumpers, and I haven't got to see him do that if I've seen your team on TV, or it's more than a highlight tape. It's a different way to look at him, and it turns every fan into a wannabe NBA GM. Well, hey, I saw City League Hoops video of this guy. I would draft him over this guy. You see that, but then also from a kid standpoint, from somebody like me, like I used to watch your draft videos. I'd already seen all them guys play in college or AAU or something, but I would watch your draft video and watch, what are the trainers doing with the guys? What type of drills are they doing? And you can see it in the NBA, there's a lot of pick and roll stuff, pick and roll reads. There's a lot of, pass the ball, pick and roll, relocate, and then shoot a 3. And, it's amazing how that's grown, man. So I watched one, it was just within the last 2 weeks, it was Trae Young. And, what I noticed, the thing that stood out the most about the video was that it was a guy filming from the left side of the court, and he was filming across the court horizontally, and on the other side there were like 10 other people filming. So I was like, oh my God, years ago Ty was the only one filming this, and now it's just that's grown into another industry or another niche in the YouTube market. So that's one of the reasons I wanted you on the podcast is I think you're so far ahead of the curve and just identifying from the YouTube market, or not YouTube, just film market, what's the next thing in basketball at different levels.
Yeah, I mean, that was something that me and Roger really sat down and talked about, is like what differentiates us, what's the kind of stuff we're interested in too. Like, we didn't do a bunch of celebrity all-star games or any of that kind of stuff, because that's not really, it's good for highlights, but it's not real basketball. We always wanted to cover with City League Hoops as much real basketball as we could, like as much of the, almost like people say inside baseball type stuff. Like, the draft workouts are just really cool because, like, for instance, like Karl Anthony Towns wasn't even allowed to shoot threes at Kentucky. And then we do his draft workout, and you kind of forgot his range. And he's just knocking down NBA threes like it's nothing. And he just told us, like, don't forget I can shoot. And I'm like, yeah, I kind of did forget that. So, I mean, that stuff is really cool. But we were really intentional about how we wanted to build the channel, and just kind of, we wanted to look back on it and just like, yeah, this is pretty cool. Some of the access that we got and some of the videos that were created. And yeah, I think some of the agencies have become a little less leery of video, and some of them are more leery than ever about it. So the draft workouts are a tricky thing, but I know the audience really enjoyed them. So that was a fun time. And like you said, we were Los Angeles, Las Vegas, Chicago, Indiana, Illinois, Ohio. I'm sure there's other places I'm not thinking of that we went for draft workouts. But yeah, it was wild. It was a good time.
You've been everywhere. Hopefully everybody got that. There's a little bit of static on the line there with Skype, but Jason will try and work through that as much. But that was great perspective. We just lost a little bit of that last minute, I think. But no, that was great, man. Exactly. I mean, if I could tell people who are listening, one thing about Ty is that he's just really, really put the work in, and that's why he's been so successful. So let's wrap things up here. That was the Triple Double podcast. We had as our guest today, extremely special guest, one of my very, very close friends from Columbus, Ohio, Ty Kish of City League Hoops TV. For Jason Moore, our producer, my name is Corey Albertson. You listen to the Triple Double podcast, and we want to tell everybody, if you have any questions, if there's any topics you want us to cover as we continue to release episodes, you can always email in questions at TDP, as in Triple Double Prospect, tdpcorey@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, guys.
Dude, thanks for having me on, man. I definitely appreciate it. And appreciate all the kind words, man.